And so workforce sustainability and health has been kind of this ongoing discussion that happens in board meetings, and it happens in other meetings, and it happens when we're out at CASA having dinner with people, and when we're talking to other business owners. And so we thought that we would get a panel together to actually discuss what's happening in our region to make that happen, and then how we as businesses can help support that and further that in the ways that we can, lead with our best. So without further ado, let me introduce everybody here who's given us their wonderful time. This is Gary Gooseman. He is, you might know him as the mayor of Amesville. He is also the head of ACRE, which is Amesville Community Resources for Entrepreneurs. So I think if you don't know this program, it's wonderful. They try to educate and lift up people in the community that want to give back, invest their life into the community. And so he brings a perspective that is really focused on, I keep saying community, so I feel like I shouldn't use that word, but really focused on his community and the economics and keeping people in and growing and being able to offer a full life within the city of Amesville. This is, you guys gotta switch because I have. This is Shawn Stover. He's with OhioMeansJobs. Jobs, sorry. And homes. No. OhioMeansJobs, sorry. I think you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot right now. So if you're not familiar with OhioMeansJobs, it's an organization that has their spread on a very wide range of what's going on, not with jobs, but the infrastructure that affects our economy, from children to, adults, right? And so I think that's an interesting perspective that maybe we don't all have access to. And so I'm really happy that you're here to kind of share that perspective. It's very important. And then after this discussion, there's Deanna. Where are you? She is also with OhioMeansJobs, and Joe. So please feel free after this if you want to further that connection, that all three of these people will be walking around. And then this is Jennifer LaRue. You probably know her. She has had a lot of hats on in this community. And her current hat is working with AMESC. And I'm dyslexic, so that's really like.
You want me to tell you what it is?
No, it's Athens Educational Service Center. And then within that, there is a Project Rise that helps facilitate funding throughout the surrounding school districts to help place our youth into internships, apprenticeships that give them training and skills they can utilize throughout their whole life. So she comes at kind of the early stages of job and workforce development by doing her organization, by doing a really important thing, which is giving our youth the reason to try something new and the reason to kind of reinvest back into themselves. So it's a big topic. We have her, and I just looked right at that. And she is with Amy Robinson. So afterwards, please speak to Amy about this, and we'll go from there. Okay, big topic. We have 30 minutes or maybe a little less because I keep on talking. I'm going to start out, and I've asked the panelists to do one at a time and back and forth, just to make sure that everybody is coming from a different perspective, can kind of share what they think is important. Let's start out with, what does a healthy, sustainable workforce mean to your organization? And and please feel free to, we can start with you,
Sure.
Jennifer, and we can, go so forth, but I think that since you guys approach it from such a different perspective.
So I'm
Yeah.
tangling that question
Yeah.
up just
Yes.
a tad,
Okay.
because if you know my past life, having the Nelsonville Emporium and working, one of the biggest problems I had there was that the workers weren't set up for success. And it was across the board, whether they were the young workers who were coming in and doing internships, or the workers who came in off the street. And if people didn't have clothing, a washing machine, that was a problem. If they didn't have reliable transportation, that was a problem. You can get somebody a car, but you can't put gas in it and fix it and make it run. If they didn't have healthy living situations, if they were cold, if they were having troubles with neighbors or relatives or people living with them, that was a problem. People's teeth were a problem. All of these things are reasons why somebody may not want to work. So that is why I really believe that we needed to work with the workforce development to try to help people and set them up for success so they felt better as workers. And that's been a passion of mine for many years, because you just for anything in life, if you're not feeling healthy and safe, it makes it much more difficult to go forward. So what I'm doing currently is I'm the career coach with Nelsonville-York, and the state of Ohio gave some funding to Job and Family Services, which went through the Athens Educational Service Center, and then with Project Rise, and each school has a career coach. And what I'm finding out right now is that the school is just as overwhelmed. I was just telling Kathy, who was one of our artists there, the school reminds me of how my business was. You can't make cookies, sell cookies, and check your email. The school is just as busy as that with all this information and everything going on. So as a career coach for workforce development, I can go in and find this information and lay it to them on a platter. I can take those students and feed them from that platter. I'm finding students are coming up to me and wanting a job, but they don't have the clothing they think they need for the job. They don't have the transportation they need for the job. I can talk to them about it because they might not be getting that at home. And I'm also having employers contact us now, and I know Amy knows, we get people who want to have internships and want to have people starting. I'm getting, just right now, the auditor's office called, and they need somebody with weights and measures, and they want one of our students to start this summer and start with a small amount of work and go up. We know somebody who needs that job. Like, I'm actually working as a connector, and it feels really good because I can help set people up for where they need to be. I can reach out to them and say, hey, one student, he's walked to school his whole life, he's graduating, they don't know what's gonna happen to him after he's done because he's walked. Our gas station can hire him, but he's not ready to work there. So we took Project Rise, and he's doing a 5-week internship in our cafeteria, learning basic skills like cleaning tables, mopping, and that. And when he finishes that, he's still probably not ready to work at the gas station. We're gonna take the Project Rise internship to the gas station, pay them for 5 weeks of training, so that when he's done with that, he'll be ready to work there. Those are the things I think we're doing with workforce development right now.
And everything she said, Jen hit on everything. Poverty is one of our biggest obstacles and hurdles for people being able to maintain employment. If you have a family and you have a car and you are doing everything you can to string that car together, if you don't have the support services or someone else to help you with those resources, then just that car not starting in the morning means you lose that job, which means that employer doesn't have that person and then they have to refill that position. So one of the bigger things that we've seen is like resources being expanded. Various agencies and organizations have better supportive services than we've ever had. OhioMeansJobs has better supportive services than we've ever had to help with these kind of basic needs. So what happens is, though, once a person progresses to the next level, there are no middle class safety nets. And that's a big issue, because once a person progresses, they start to lose their benefits, they start to lose access to those resources. And if they don't have a stable, secure family that they can depend on, then they're pretty much done. I mean, if they run into an obstacle where they lose their housing, they lose their car, there's legal issues, then they're gonna lose their employment. And then they have to start over. So I think it's important for not only our organizations, but our employers to invest in how can we sustain people once they become more into that kind of pay zone with the middle class pay zone. I would assume that everyone in this room is fortunate that if we lost a job, we would have someone we could go to get us through that hard time. we would have a mother, father, sibling, friend, and we could say, look, I'm on some hard times, I need a little extra. And they would get us through that time period, and that may be just enough for us to maintain that employment. So for us, that is one of the biggest things about sustainability. But the other thing is, like Jen said, starting with our youth, getting them involved and interested in their community, getting them to the point where they're like, I want to live in this community, I love this community. People that grow up in this community love their community. They don't want to live in Columbus or Cincinnati or Dayton. They want to live here. So if we're able to mentor them, get them into apprenticeships, get them into good paying trades early on, then we'll be able to keep our workforce.
In Amesville, we come at it from a little different angle. We started participating with Rural Action in an entrepreneurial program 10 years ago. And it all dovetailed with the various hats that I was wearing. I've been mayor for 12 years, and as mayor, we were always trying to figure out how to help the community be a thriving community, how to interact with the school district, things like that. And one of the early things, everything these folks said is true. And the village, we tried to, on our website and through the community, link up with resources that would help people achieve, get a car and do the things that they needed. But our focus really was in trying to get growing small businesses around Amesville. And we worked on that from the perspective of the village. And at the exact same time, the old elementary school in Amesville came up for auction, and I bought it. And trying to figure out what to do with it, some people said put it, storage units, but that just didn't seem to do much for the community. So instead, my wife and I, we fixed up all the rooms and started renting those out with the hopes that small businesses would grow there. Now, currently and throughout its history, we've mostly had artists. People who needed studio space and they, didn't have anywhere at their own home, and so we rent out these spaces at under market rate to allow them to grow their business and get their legs under them so that they can go further down the road and hopefully hire other people and be successful as a small business. But that was our emphasis in the beginning, to provide support for that and connect them to resources if they need it, if they needed a business plan or other ideas about how to market their stuff. But they were all young folks and much actually more savvy than I was about social media and marketing their stuff, so we just let them go for it. But it all dovetailed nicely with what we were doing with the community, what Federal Hocking Schools was doing with their internships. And our goals as a community were to have a thriving community, and we need businesses that are hiring people, and then you need activities that are going on. And we work with our nonprofits so that there are interesting things happening in Amesville, so that you don't always look to go to Athens to do things.
Can I touch on that real quick? NPR had a really interesting podcast on about third-party problems, which I didn't really quite understand what that was, but I think that, Gary, that what you're doing is what they were saying is the problem is that right now there's a lot of young people who don't want to get their driver's licenses. They don't have to go to the mall to buy their clothes, but the mall was where you looked at fashion and where you ran into people and you interacted. So they can get their clothes online. They don't have to see their friends in person. They can have friends anywhere in the world right now. They don't have to have a driver's license because they don't need to get it. Everything can be delivered to them. And they barely need a job because you really only need to pay for internet. So the third party problem is that churches, which were so popular back then, that's where you learned about your neighbors, and you went and you commiserated together, and you were joyful together, and you celebrated together. And that, the malls were places that you could meet somebody, you could go roller skating to find out, hopefully my friends will be there. But they're missing it. They're missing that community link, which I think if we don't act on it soon, is like a human health condition. And so I'm really happy that you're doing it, and I know Federal Hocking area's got a lot going on, Athens, but you have to almost keep the healthy part of it, which I know you are, but that's the part I feel that when the state and the government and everybody is trying to fix problems, sometimes it's easier than we realize. that it's the health and the nurturing and the respect that comes from your community, that you want to be the best that you can be.
Yeah. And I'll feed off of that. I don't know if any of you read the book Dreamland, which is about the opioid epidemic, but a lot of what is needed is building community and the interactions that we've lost over time, as you said, that we need those places to go and things to do. And that book is based on the loss of a facility in Portsmouth, though. I think it was Portsmouth.
Yes.
That then, when they lost jobs in factories, was part of a downward spiral. And I think, it's more than throwing money at it. You do have to build community with people that know each other and want to work together.
Okay, I'll go to the next one. So, how do each of your organizations ask for support, or funding, or what you need to really be the facilitator of change?
Yeah, you go first.
We're fortunate because we are a government agency. We are allocated federal, state, local funds to operate our services and to keep our programs running. So we have a pretty consistent pool of money coming down. So we're very fortunate. It's like, how do we utilize that money? How do we best spend that money for our communities and to expand on employment opportunities? We can occasionally get grants that have so many strings attached to them and so many things you have to do to maintain a grant that sometimes we're just really not worth going after certain grants. And I think a lot of the nonprofits, the private nonprofits, benefit more from the grants than the government offices. But I'm blessed that we are able to funnel money into Athens County, and us being a voice as a community to the bigger, to the higher ups in the state, saying what we need is most effective for us to be able to get this money coming down. Special projects. In the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years, we've seen funds come down here we never would have seen 10 years ago. And it's really been a great expansion for some of the smaller communities and villages, which is basically the heartland of Athens County. The inner city of Athens, the hub, is self-sustaining for the most part. It's the villages and communities that struggle because of transportation, because of poverty, because of the isolation.
Right, well, because if you don't know already, Job and Family Services and OhioMeansJobs are the same but different.
Right,
Yeah.
but different, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, you're federally funded.
Right, so we are federally funded, but which is interesting for my position because each school district was able to get a career coach. I was a 6-month position, which is ending, but they renewed it for the full next year. Some other people were a little bit longer, and each school district needed different things. One thing that I don't know if you're all aware of, about 16 months ago, they started SEALs for graduation. So students have to complete their coursework, then they have to take certain tests to graduate, and now there's 12 SEALs and they need 2 of them to graduate. I printed off a little copy so you can kind of look at the SEALs. It's impressive, whoever came up with that idea, because you actually, when the kids are doing their transcripts now or their diplomas, they'll have SEALs that mean they actually did it. But what the goal behind that is to make them well-rounded, and they need the 2 of the 12. You wouldn't think that that would necessarily be a hard thing, but for some students who may struggle on any level of it, they may not be in sports, they may not be doing community outreach, they might not be in theater or band, they might not be taking a technical course or a science course that gets crossed off these lists. They may not want to join the military, which would also give you a SEAL. So you can get SEALs from all different ways, but the guidance counselors and everything that they do on a regular basis, that's a lot for them to take on, and they take it on. But so this extra position came in to try to help the guidance counselors, help the people who are working with the special needs students, help those who are working with the IEPs, help that, because I wrote down, if you ask what our organization is doing, it's mostly back to just me, but I'm a connector. So I find the resources in the community, I find the resources that are coming from the state. People can hand me information and say, is this gonna work for Nelsonville-York? Alexander schools are different, federal Hocking different, but we're also talking to each other. The career coaches are getting together and saying, what assessment test are you taking? did that assessment test work well? Already at Nelsonville-York this year, they've taken like 3 assessment tests, and Kelly has a great one from the state of Ohio. They just are not sure that they're ready for their students to take another assessment test unless you know what's gonna happen after the assessment test. That's great that they find out that we should work with people. You know, like, how many times can you tell a student that? So, you know, so that's what I'm doing, is trying to connect and maybe make some jumps in the right direction, and maybe really inform people in the community and educators of what's happening on both sides.
And then Gary, you're a little more unique, I think.
Well, I mean, ACRE's a for-profit, so we don't get grants and everything. The support we look for is activity. We don't rent out all the classrooms. So we kept one room called the community room for seminars, presentations. The artists there use it for pop-up sales to sell their items. And then we'll have speakers come out, and so we really, not so much the financial support, but looking for people who will participate in presentations or education or information. I'm involved with another organization in Amesville, Village Production, which is a 501c3, a nonprofit, and that group is helping create a thriving community by offering health and wellness classes, yoga and Pilates and dance for children and music and choir. And we have a band that plays a dance once a month and all these kind of social activities. And that really helps build community, bring people together, and then they have ideas and they talk and you get to know. I mean, Amesville's so small, everybody knows everybody. So you get to know what people need. And also, I mean, we don't have a lot of businesses. ACRE is kind of one of our foundational businesses there in town, and they come to all those things. And so they know what jobs they have, and they support nonprofits and are active. So that interaction is important, not so much on the money level, but people willing to come together and provide services and training, entertainment that will make it valuable to connect with other people living in the community.
Okay, I think we'll wrap up with one more question. And we'll see where this takes us. What are the goals for your organization this year or in the next 5? So I know some organizations, you kind of have that 5-year plan, some a little shorter, but what's the goal? Where y'all going?
Gary, you want to go first now?
Yeah, so I'll start with ACRE, because I
Yeah,
kind of
ACRE,
represent a
yeah.
bunch of different
Okay.
organizations, so which one should I talk about?
ACRE.
I mean, the building's fully occupied, and we have things going on. We also recently added a business, a dog trainer that does obedience training there, and then we have a little free library that has 2,000 books available. So we're trying to do all these different things, which is a mishmash of stuff. My goal is just to have more of that, more activity, more people there, more people interacting and coming and going, and be able to be an example of a lot of different things. I mean, the building has solar on it. We run the building with a solar array, and so we're always open to talk about that. The community room has, sometimes parties or seminars. I don't have, it's just more of all of the above happening on a regular basis, so that there are people and activities going there more frequently. And for the village, our goals are to have a thriving community, to increase owner-occupied housing, to have the housing stock better taken care of, to increase the business presence and the number of businesses. And the one we've been working on for the last 20 years or almost is getting broadband for the village, which we're about to close the deal this summer. We've been trying to get funding to get high speed, because one thing in Amesville and the surrounding area, our belief is that this is a great place to live. The cost of living is low, it's beautiful, they're friendly people, there's great history. And we want to, in Amesville and around here, we want to retain young people with innovative ideas. And they have often left to go other places to work, go to college and left and gone somewhere. And we want to reverse that. We want to, at least for Amesville, and that was the missing piece, because now people could work remotely. They could have a job from anywhere in the world, and they could live in Amesville, and they could go to our outdoor music festivals and go to our dances and go to the restaurant. And we don't have much, but what we have, we think is very high quality. And so that, I think, is the missing piece to sell ourselves, to get people to move there and young people to move there with families. I mean, the Amesville Elementary is right there in town. And so we want young families with kids. It's a very safe community. Move here, raise your family here, your kids can walk to school and get a great education, and you can live in a good community. So that's our goal.
I'd move there. You know, if you could do it all over again. It is just that gorgeous. And one fear I personally have, I'm from Cleveland, you know, originally, is that when you drive down the road, there's just so much construction and things changing. And I get that people want to have everything that they want everywhere else, but it's like protecting some of these beautiful, beautiful places. And I feel like that's going on right now. People have a resurgence. They want there to be a really sweet spot, but they want to have all their anemones and then, what was that called? They want all that with it. They want Walmart right around the corner. And you know, I think there's just beauty in really not having to have everything and just slowing down a little bit. I learned that as an educator a long time ago. I thought Bill Nye the Science Guy was so incredible. And I said, we should teach like that at kids on campus. We should do this, we should do that, we should do. And they said, sometimes Zoom is what you need. You know, sometimes you just need to slow down a little bit and think about it. And so I got a little off topic, I guess, with that. But what for my 5-year goal in connecting people and doing things is, I think what we really want to do at the schools is the STEAM approach. And coming at it and slowing it down a bit too, and not making people stressed about a test that they have to take, and not make people worried that they're not successful in any, like trying to again build them up rather than push them down, because too often that's what happens is people get left in the cracks. You know, you could have a star athlete or a star performer or a star student, but it's everybody. You know, you can't have a performance at the Stewart Opera House unless you have the sound person and the person who cleans the stage. Like really embracing the whole of every aspect of community and life, because I think where we're going, Nelsonville-York's interesting because we have Tri-County Vocational School right there, and then we also have Hocking College, and so there's a lot of talk going on with everybody through these programs, because right now when you are in 9th grade and you start working on your graduation portfolio, by the time you're in 10th grade, they want to know, are you going to be going to a technical school? Are you going to be going down the College Credit Plus path? Are you going to be staying here? Every one of those is a valid path for wherever that student's going. Statistic-wise, there's 67 kids at Nelsonville-York graduating this year. They have 20 some going to Tri-County Vocational School. They have another 20 going to College Credit Plus. And at first, as a parent of a junior this year, I was like, why are these kids not in school? They're going to the colleges. They don't need to rush their colleges and that. But it's because things are going so fast for those students, and it works, and they can get this college paid for. It's almost as if they're going to a technical school, like they're going to a college. But that means there's 31 students left in the building right now. And then you have the teachers in the different classes, and then the teachers, they have 6 students instead of 12. And it's a ripple effect that I think we need to really embrace and talk about where things are going. And so in the next 5 years, I think there's going to be so many changes like that we have to like listen to the people who are right there having it happen. There's lots of really great ideas, but how do we make it work and make it work well and work together on it? Yeah.
Follow that.
Yeah. It's big.
Our most basic primal goal is to link job seekers with employers. And how do we do that? How do we get people coming in our doors to utilize free services? When you say free, you think people come running, but they don't. So we need to figure out how can we market, how can we move our services more into the community, how can we go to the people that need the services. So creating the programming, creating the atmosphere and the staff where people feel welcome, where people know where they can go to get services, and where people will feel like this was worth my time. And that's a hard thing to do, and it's hard to keep people's interest sometimes. So we try to be creative with our programming, we try to work with all our partners, we funnel money into the communities to try and get that vibe out there so that people will maybe come back to us. But that's a big part of it. I mean, OhioMeansJobs Athens County is one of 88. There's an OhioMeansJobs in every county. We want to be unique to this area. We want to do what's needed for this area. This is a very, very dissimilar area than any other area in the state. And what we have is we have wealth and we have poverty. We have university and we have business. It's a hard mix sometimes. So that's the basics of it. Creating the programming, getting the vibe out there that people should come in, utilize our services, utilize our free trainings. Our staff are there to kind of help people along the line and to kind of guide them into what we would call self-sustaining careers. We don't want to just put someone in fast food. Fast food can be a step to something else though. We need to make sure that we market that like restaurant ready programming where a fast food job could lead to other jobs. And a quick story, my sister, my younger sister, a few years younger, she started working at Wendy's when she was 16 years old. She worked at Wendy's where we grew up in Springfield. She worked at Wendy's in Athens when she went to Ohio University. She worked at Wendy's in Texas. She worked at Wendy's most of her life, and they put her through marketing, they put her through college, and now she has a Lexus. They put one of those little charging stations in her garage. Beautiful house. She's a regional coordinator for Burger King because Burger King headhunted her. You wouldn't think Burger King would headhunt Wendy's, but they did. And so Burger King stole my sister from Wendy's, which I think is pretty good.
Pretty good.
We like the King, so. So she's doing good, and she's a regional manager, developer, and I think breakfast operations and things. And it was like, you know, I had to pat her on the back for putting in all that hard work, and she still would be a fry cook. She would still go in and work alongside her team members. And I think that's something that we're lacking, is that kind of leadership that will work alongside and mentor our youth.
I agree.
Yeah. We need that.
Yeah, well, this is why we're having the panel, right? I mean, I think in front of us, we're seeing options, support, and community, or opportunity. That all of our businesses can maybe take a moment and figure out how we fit and how we can help and how we can lift up these organizations in our community that work on this every day. So, thank you. Thank you very much. With Project Rise, we have Amy Robinson with OhioMeansJobs. We have Joe Frazier and Deanna Braggs. Please feel free to mingle and talk and to get more information. We will follow up with an email for all of you guys who attended and registered. Please fill out information if you did not pre-register so that we can follow up with an email because our panelists will be sharing their 3 top books about what has inspired them to dive into a life of service and serving the community. And if you haven't, drop your business card off so that the book that was donated from Little Professor, can be gifted to one of you fantastic people. So, thank you so much.